Good morning, everybody. Just checking we're all at the right committee meeting. Okay, Environment Community Services Committee. Any applications for attending meeting via video link?
Nil.
Neil? Any apologies?
Nil received, Madam Chair.
Councillor Abbott?
Oh, Councillor Abbott.
Can I have a seconder for that, please? I'll move it. Oh, isn't she? Okay. Can we just note?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
noted that,
thank
yeah.
you. Any declarations of interest?
Nil.
Going well. Public participation. So we have 3 requests to address the committee.
That's right, Madam Chair. We have Leanne Mcgrath, Colleen Brown and Michael Cole. I don't think they're all here with us today. So.
Okay, well, if we're happy to move with that, we'll move, get them to come up one at a time. So I'll invite Leanne Mcgrath. Hi, Leanne. Here you go. So just up here. Agenda item, health and wellbeing, crime environment, impacts to heritage trees. And she's against the recommendation. Thank you, Leanne.
Good morning, councillors. My name is Leanne Mcgrath. My family have lived on the corner of Roach and Albert Street, Parkville for 32 years. Our beautiful home was built in 1911 and is 111 years old. Our home directly borders the proposed 24-hour petrol station, and it will vibrate and rattle with idling trucks and vehicles, which will make it unbearable to live in. Our health and well-being will be directly impacted by the smell of petrol fumes, loud noise, constant 24/7 traffic coming in both directions up our quiet residential streets, and the worry of groundwater pollution to our water source, which we use in our home every day, and the diesel fumes affecting our fresh drinking tank water. My 30-year-old son will be most affected by this proposed petrol station because of his severe medical conditions, and we are so very concerned for his health and well-being, as well as all of us who live in Parkville. The nature of a 24/7 petrol station will create a hub for crime and undesirables all hours of the night and every night. Our quiet, idyllic lifestyle will be one of fear and anxiety. Our security will be compromised, and everyone on Albert and Roach Streets and Main Street will not be safe. Albert Street, being a straight road, will turn into a speedway, and not having any footpaths for pedestrians, school children to walk on, there will be no doubt a fatality. The majestic memorial gum trees that line Roach Street were planted to honour war heroes. Scone Historical Society have given me copies of newspaper articles from 1946 about the Parkville Progress Society, in which a ceremony took place to honour and commemorate soldiers from World War II, with the planting of red flowering ironbark trees lining both sides of Roach Street. Scone RSL are aware of Parkville's war history and the memorial trees, and there are still families like the Manning family who have trees planted in honour of family members past. The removal of these trees, torn out of the ground and replaced by a 24/7 petrol station, will ultimately kill all the other memorial gum trees with diesel fuel runoff. This would be the desecration of Parkville's history. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Leanne. Just stay there in case any of the councillors might have a question for you. Is that okay? Do any of the any questions? Nothing? No, we're fine. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Lee.
Our second speaker is Colleen Brown, also on development on the 24-hour service station. Hi, Colin.
Mr Chairman, councillors, I'm not here to speak either for or against the motion. I know council's reached a decision or a recommendation based on fact. I'm just here to support the development in the village of Parkville. I've lived here over 60 years and seen the loss of services this village has suffered. My family's been in the area 150. The trees Leanne mentioned earlier were actually planted by my great-grandfather and grandfather in those press articles she talks about, and he looked after them until the day he died in 1965. Some of the original trees are still there, yes, and up Roach Street, but some have died and moved on. The previous service station was a major part of my life growing up. That site is zoned commercial. It has always been commercial. At the time, there was a well bore at the back of the service station. Water monitoring has improved dramatically since those days, but I was never aware of any water issues back then. If I had a water issue in Parkville at the moment, I'd be more concerned with the ARTC land, which has a contaminated paddock on Mareeba Road. There's no water monitoring at all from it. It seeps into the watercourse and goes straight under the village of Parkville. ARTC can do what they want with no one being notified. I live probably the closest to the railway line of anyone in that village. I have the noise, I have the environmental impact, I have the cracking in my house, and there's not a thing I can do about it, but I live with it because it's development. The service station would offer employment for the people of Parkville and around. I know the Scone Primary School has just, year 4, have just done an assignment on the history of the local area, and several of the local children concentrated on Parkville and the families around, and they had to talk to people about what they wanted, including kids. And the kids want somewhere to go. They want somewhere to go and buy something, somewhere to work. My major issue with the development is the school children. I agree with Leanne there. The bus stop to the north is a major concern unless they can come up with some answers, if was approved, what they're going to do. The bus stop has always been there, but there's more children now with the change in traffic that they'd have to go into Roach Street. It would be a major issue. I have a grandson that catches that bus every day, and I don't want anything happening to him. I want him to be able to ride a push bike to the bus stop like I did. What else have I got? Sorry. The trees I've mentioned. Like I said, the only thing I really want to see is that if it's a no to this development, that we don't lock Parkville off. We don't say, hey, that's it, we're not going to have any more development, because the amenity of the area has deteriorated in the centre of town. People don't want to stop there. There's other facilities. We have great tennis courts. We have a great recreation area with showers and toilets that I actually suggested to the mayor when you were looking for a camping, for the camper vans area. They're facilities that people don't stop in Parkville, and it's a beautiful little village. We want to maintain that rural amenity. So if it does require the developers putting in more information, then well and good. If it's refused, I can understand council's reasons for it, having, been on both sides of this fence, but I just hope council considers it favourably. Thank you.
Colleen, just any questions for Colleen? Thank you.
Thank you, Collins, and also the previous speaker for coming and presenting it to us. You mentioned the groundwater, etc. Is Parkville, and this may be showing my ignorance, I'm from Merriward, so please forgive me. Is Parkville connected to town water?
No, it's part of the current considerations that council's having public consultations about, whether we want connections to our homes or a standpipe within the village.
Right, thank you, yeah. So there is a genuine risk.
There's
I also know that area that has limited underground water supply down in that area. Also, we moved here to Merriwar in 1962, and I do recall going through. There was a service station somewhere there.
The service stations.
The Caltex one, is that?
It's a golden fleece. It was
is
built
it?
in the late 1940s, early 1950s. It closed early in 1970s and reopened again later,
Right.
and was open till 1983. It was actually my first job, flipping hamburgers at Parkville Service Station.
But that's not on this site that they're talking.
Yes, it's exactly the
Right.
same site. Exactly the same site. At this time, it was owned by Golden Fleece. Then I believe Graham Hook purchased the land, and it's always been zoned commercial. And
Right, okay.
there's always been talk about a service station or a shop or something going back there.
Is there any facility for Parkville to have any kids playground or something like that?
We have the playground, yes.
It's off the
It comes and it
highway.
goes like kids do, you know, with what age the children are. At the moment, it's a bit slack off, the tennis courts, etc. But yeah, there is sporting facilities, well, recreational facilities there for the children.
I do agree with the development in small towns because villages, I think that's just great for everybody benefits from that. But thank you anyway for your
No worries.
presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Colleen. I'll invite Michael Cole, representing Oceanic Group Holdings, and is it Dinesh Kumar? Michael speaking. You're speaking both on the 24-hour service station and the car wash.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time this morning. You'll have to indulge me a little bit. I've been engaged on this project only on Friday, so I'm very late to the party. It's probably an indication that the current DA needs some work, and that's all I'm here to do, to ask today, is to give me some time to review the project and see if we can improve it to meet some of the concerns of the residents and make it a good development for Parkville and service the area in general. I think from the report that I've read that there's definitely some areas that could have some improvement in the application. Whether we can get to everything that needs to be done, I'm not sure at this stage. I haven't had a lot of time to review it, but I would just request that that the matter got deferred such that we could have a review of the application and see if there's some changes we can make to improve it. And the same for the car wash in the main street. Again, I haven't had a lot of time to review it, but again, there's obvious heritage concerns there that need some more review, and I'd ask that it be deferred so that we can engage more with the council staff and see if we can come to a better solution there.
Okay, so yeah, so you'd be happy to work with our director to go through the process. Seems like you're on the back foot here. So
by the owners to take that approach and work cooperatively to do that. We've been doing DAs in the Upper Hunter for 20 years, and we're more than happy to discuss and work cooperatively with council to achieve a better outcome.
if you're in a position to say so, why have you been brought in so late? Because of the issues involved that's come back as a
look,
deferral?
it's I suspect the current consultants have underestimated how much additional work needs to be done to get them up to an acceptable standard for the community. I'm around this area as well. I don't want developments that don't suit the area. So yeah, I've been brought in to work with council and see if we can get a result that benefits everybody.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Any questions, Councillor? No. Councillor Campbell, have you got anything? Okay. No? Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to business items, and the first is the development application 142-2020 24-hour service station. would the director like to, just give an update, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So 20th of October in 2020, Council received DA 142 of 2020 for a 24-hour service station at 9 Road Street in Parkville. The application is being referred to this committee because it does not comply with the number of the outcomes to be achieved in the Upper Hunter DCP, and 13 submissions have been received. The proposed development, I think we've actually got a aerial photo of the site we might put up on the screen. The proposed, the development site comprises 2 village allotments with a combined area of 3,461 square metres and a 90-metre frontage to Main Street and a 36-metre frontage to Road Street. You can see there's the lot there. Steve is pointing to it with the arrow. The development proposes to construct a 24-hour service station, which includes the erection of a 18 by 18 metre by 5.7 metre high sales building, an 8 by 26 metre by 5.6 metre canopy, signage 2.5 metres by 8, loading area, parking spaces, underground petroleum storage system, tradeways system, proposed upgrades to the Main Street, Road Street intersection, and landscaping. Detailed plans are provided in attachments 2 and 3. So if you turn to page 12 of the agenda, you'll see the site plan, which shows the proposed entry off Road Street and the exit back onto the New England Highway, with the fuel canopy and the service station building. There's a few 3D perspectives as well, you'll see on those pages in attachment 3. The subject site is zoned RE5 Village under the Upper Hunter LEP, and the service station is permissible with consent. The application was notified between the 30th of October 2020 and 6th of November 2020. An advertisement was placed in the Hunter Valley News. We received a total of 13 submissions from surrounding properties. The main issues are summarised in the report, but I'll just highlight some of the key issues that were raised in the submissions. Concerns about the risk of accidents from the storage and handling of fuel and the risk of explosion. There was concerns about the removal of and potential damage to heritage trees in Road Street. Concerns that were raised already by the speakers about the safety of school children using the bus stop, potential for noise impacts. We had contamination of soil and water, loss of amenity due to the proposed acoustic fence, concerns about the impacts on property values in the area, and potential for antisocial behaviour. So that was just a few of the issues that were raised. The application was referred to Transport for New South Wales for comment, and they did raise some concerns about the adequacy of the proposed access onto the highway. I understand the applicant was proposing a BAR type intersection, which is a basic right turn, and Transport for New South Wales were requesting a channellised right turn intersection, which I understand the applicant didn't agree with, wasn't supporting. So Transport for New South Wales were unable to support the application in its current form. We also referred the application to our Infrastructure Services Department, who concurred with Transport for New South Wales response. The application was also referred to New South Wales Police for comment, just in relation to crime, security and safety issues. The New South Wales Police didn't raise any major objections to the proposal, but did have some concerns about the isolation of the site and the potential for businesses to become a target for more serious crime. However, they did recommend some conditions of consent if the council chose to support the application. A number of issues were raised in the assessment of the application. They were the access off Road Street and the potential impact on those heritage trees that were mentioned before. It appears that probably up to 4 trees will need to be removed to facilitate that access. The development is likely to have an adverse impact on the amenity of adjoining residents through the noise impacts of a 24-hour service station. The Transport for New South Wales raised those concerns about the intersection, which I mentioned before. We had the potential for vehicles that are exiting the site onto the New England Highway that wish to turn north would either have to head south and then around the block up through Albert Street and back onto Roach Street to turn right. Otherwise, they may have to head south and may try and attempt a U-turn further south so they can continue on their northern journey. So there are some concerns about that. There are also concerns about the internal movement of 19-metre long semi-trailers. Even though the applicant suggested that they would be limiting the size of the vehicles to 12.5 metres, they really didn't put any physical controls in place to control that. So it'd be very difficult to police. The proposal doesn't satisfy the state environmental planning policy for resilience and hazards, as the preliminary site investigation report has a number of deficiencies. So we're not satisfied that the site, it's not clear whether the site is contaminated and whether it's suitable in its current state for development. There's also a potential risk to groundwater. We understand there's a lot of residents in Parkville which actually access the groundwater, and there are concerns about the potential risks to groundwater. We did request the applicant to provide a risk assessment of that, but that was not provided. And the proposed development also does not comply with the Upper Hunter DCP with respect to advertising and signage, off-street car parking and outdoor lighting. So we found there were quite a few issues with the application. Because of that, we've recommended refusal of the DA for the reasons given in attachment 1. And I won't go through those because most of those reasons are just outlined. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Pringle. Do we have any questions for Mr. Yeah, sure. Oh, you want to move it? No, we've got to move it. Second. Any questions? Yeah, sure.
I'd just like to thank the community for coming today. There are several things that I'd just like to point out. The first thing is, if this day has been recommended by our staff not to accept it, and I trust that you know what you're doing. My concern is that there have been so many recommendations given that the applicant has not followed through on. And so if we say, okay, we're going to then wait for you to do this and that, it's going to end up just being negotiations. So I think that if they would like to provide something for Parkville, it needs to start from scratch, and they need to be aware that we're not going to be negotiating on these things. Secondly, when we have 13 submissions from a small village like Parkville, one submission probably represents 5 people. So this is actually where we need to make sure that we're listening to our community, and they don't want this. Thirdly, I do take into consideration, I think it was Colleen said, that we need to also look for things for Parkville. So it's not that we're not going to be doing things for Parkville, but this is clearly not what Parkville wants. And I think as a council, we need to look to give opportunities to vendors to move into Parkville, but to give them something that Parkville is in agreement with.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. Councillor Flaherty. Oh, just playing with the mic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I agree with everything that Councillor McPhee spoke about. As I stated, we came here into Merry Ward in 1962, but things have moved on very much in the fact that Parkville, the requirements for Parkville, I remember it was being a little place to go and have a milkshake and that sort of thing down there in the old service station. However, that's 50 years ago, and Parkville is a very nice little village, and I agree the fact that it needs some other facilities there too. But also, there has been passed or recommended in the industrial area for a service station in Mackay-Diva, and so I could not support this recommendation or a DA in that state, because we've already got them there, and we need something different in Parkville. And I agree that we just need to investigate that. Thank you.
I just had a question. Colleen mentioned something about an RV park that was thought about for Parkville, and she referenced to the Met. Do you know anything about that? And is that a viable development in Parkville?
Yeah, just through you, Madam Chair. Colleen did speak to me about it when we were looking at putting the rest area in at Bill Rose, and she suggested that maybe that might be an area out there. Certainly agree. The reason it was put down here is mainly to entice people into the town. But yeah, in the long term, it wouldn't be a caravan park, it'd be a rest area. And I'd certainly back
So
that.
could it be like an RV facility? Could RVs park there overnight and camp there overnight?
Matt, do you want to answer that one?
Possibly, we'd have to look into that and look at the permissibility of that. If it's in a road reserve, that should be fine. There's no issues with that. But once you get off a road reserve, that becomes not problematic, but there's a few issues that we need to look at.
Because at the moment, driving up and down the highway, there's not a lot of places that leap out to you. I mean, to get off the freeway and get into Bill Rose is problematic, but something in one of our towns on the highway that is really prominent for travellers on that road, I think would benefit whatever village that went into.
Yep,
I'll take that on notice. I'd just like to say, I'd like to see development happen. However, when we've got a DA like this that has asked for so many things and it hasn't come forward, it's past the stage of deferral, unfortunately, in my eyes anyway. The footprint's increased and I can see where the issues are laying around there. So I'll be supporting the recommendation as well. So we've got a mover and a seconder. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, second on the item today is the development application for proposed car wash and cafe with associated signage, landscaping and car parking. I think now Ross, you already, Michael had already spoken on this as well. So we'll just get an update from the director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the 7th of December 2021, received DA 186 of 2021 for a car wash and cafe with associated signage, landscaping and car parking at number 218 Kelly Street in Scone. We might get that one up on the screen as well so we can.
Sorry, no.
So this application for the car wash is being referred to the committee as it doesn't comply with the Upper Hunter DCP. The application was actually assessed by an independent planning consultant due to our staff shortages, I guess you could say, in our department at the moment. So we have had that independently assessed. The proposal, or the development site, has an area of about 1,000 square metres, and you can see up there on the corner of Kingdon and Kelly Street, opposite the Thoroughbred Hotel, up in there. Yep. It's got a 20-metre frontage to Kelly Street and a 50-metre frontage to Kingdon Street. The site is located in the Central Scone Conservation Area, and there are heritage items adjoining to the north along Kelly Street, which is Asa House, the Scone Advocate Building, and the Upper Hunter Ambulance Station, the former library building and World War I Memorial, as well. The Thoroughbred Hotel on the southeastern corner, it's not listed as a heritage item, but it is a contributory item to that conservation area. The subject site is Zone B2 Local Centre under the Upper Hunter LEP, and the proposed car wash is permissible as a commercial facility, permissible with consent. So if you turn to page 128 of your agenda, you'll see some plans of the proposed development in there, including the elevation of the proposed cafe on Kelly Street. And you'll notice that the change in the difference in the ground levels that's proposed from the Kelly Street up to that building level and to the car wash at the back. That's on page 128. The site plan on page 131 gives you a good idea of the layout of the site, showing the proposed vehicular access off Kingdon Street and then the exit back onto Kingdon Street as well. The application was placed on exhibition and surrounding properties were notified of the proposal between the 22nd of December 2021 and the 12th of January of this year. There were no submissions received by council. The application was referred to our heritage advisor, who raised a number of concerns with the proposal. The heritage advisor felt that the proposal is not appropriate in the conservation area and will have a significant adverse impact on the surrounding heritage items. It was felt that the car wash shelters are dominant elements in the conservation area. They're not suitable in terms of their scale. And it was felt that they're sort of a industrial element, I guess, which would be incompatible with the conservation area. The industrial use requires large areas of hard paving with minimal landscaping possible, which will detract from the area. And there were concerns about the change in the ground levels, as I mentioned before, as well. Where do we get up to? So some of the issues that were raised in the assessment, concerns about the impacts on heritage, the changes to the ground levels. We felt it wasn't in the public interest because of its negative impact on the streetscape in Kelly Street and Kingdon Street, as well as on the integrity of the conservation area. The Upper Hunter LEP and the DCP are quite clear in the importance of conserving the conservation areas and ensuring that any development doesn't detract from those areas. And the development was found to be inconsistent with the Upper Hunter DCP as well with respect to heritage conservation, landscaping, off-street parking and access, advertising and signage, and designing for accessibility. So again, we've actually recommended refusal of this application as well for the reasons given in attachment 1. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Pringle. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
So through you, Madam Chair, when you say they're going to build up the land, I mean, that's quite a bit of a slope on that little block. And, you know, there's not a lot of depth to it before you get to the fire station. So what are they proposing to do? Cut into that or build up at the front? What are they proposing to do?
I think the image on that page that I referred to before, page 128 of the agenda,
Yeah.
you can see the building is elevated above the level of the Kelly Street footpath. So there's steps going up to that building.
Yeah.
And then you can see the retaining wall at the back there, which is that upper level where the car wash is proposed. So I'd suggest there's some filling of the site in there.
Is the that intersection suitable? I mean, I know that there's been a death there previously, like it's, you know, on a corner, and the RMS have spoken about, you know, doing studies on that corner before for safety hazards. So with the traffic from that venue, what could be the impacts on that intersection? Would it be safe?
Well, I guess, I mean, the intersection's changed because we now have the bypass, so you don't have that highway traffic. So I think the volumes of traffic are significantly less than what we used to have in Kelly Street. And I understand there is some intersection treatments proposed as part of the Main Street upgrades as well, which should address any safety concerns.
Anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, look, I've always been very strong on pro-development, proper pro-development, planned development. I think this would probably be good for Scone, but I just think it's in the wrong place, and I couldn't support it in that area there. With the car wash, I suggest if you notice in some of the other towns and you travel to other larger towns, even cities, that it's not located right in the centre like that. It's always out in, how I say, a sort of a semi-industrial area, where that also I think that caravans or something like that could pass through safely in a car wash. And so I think it's a good development, but not in that area. It should be located perhaps in the industrial area. And that would probably also, with a cafe or something there, I'm not against it. I think they're always good. Go and get a cup of coffee while your car's being washed. However, I think that, as I said, I don't believe it's in the right place, and so I won't support I will be supporting the resolution.
Okay, and we've jumped ahead. So if we've got a mover, second, all in favour? Against? Carried. Any further? Yeah, sure.
What concerns me about both of these proposals is that they're not reading the room of Upper Hunter Shire. Both of them have been, like this one especially, where we're actually embarking on a revitalisation of this Kelly Street. We're not going to be putting a car wash in there. It can go in the industrial area, but I think my recommendation to any developer is to read the room of Upper Hunter Shire and propose things that we're actually going to that we're going to be able to put through. We want people to develop in this area, but they have to be appropriate for what we want as a shire.
Two questions to the director, and one is there any way a new development could fit within the conservation area?
Through you, Madam Chair, I guess it comes down to the design of the proposal and making sure that it's sympathetic to the significance of the conservation area and the surrounding heritage items.
It would be very difficult to
would be
create a
difficult for a car
new
wash
build. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's a lot of hard stand space.
Yeah.
And you've got the canopy and so forth. So it would be difficult, but maybe someone could come up with a really interesting design.
Maybe. And the second is, isn't the existing building already elevated?
I believe it is slightly, but not to the extent of this proposal.
Just to comment too, I'm not opposed to a car wash in the main street. Musselbrook's got one next to a petrol station. I think, you know, there's latitude there, and if there's a disused service station or something, maybe that's a better use of it. But yeah, I just think that block is the wrong block to have a car wash.
Okay, we've got a mover and a second. If there's no further, more comment? No. Yeah, mover and second. All in favour? Against? Carried. Move on to questions with notice. Right. Okay. Mr. Pringle, have you got an update? Anything in relation to that?
Madam Chair, no, we've just responded to Councillor Abbott's questions, as you can see on page 169. Councillor Abbott's not here, unfortunately.
I have an email from Councillor Abbott I would like to read. I can find it. I am an apology for the E&C meeting. Had you finished? Sorry. Yeah. After reading the responses to my questions with notice, which I am still disappointed that Upper Hunter Shire Council have insisted upon when we did not need to, I'm feeling very tired and exhausted and wondering what's the point of turning up. I asked how exposed is Upper Hunter Shire Council to Australian Carbon Credit Union's sham with respect to Council's current emissions offsetting and Council's future emissions offsetting. And the General Manager responded with use of the word sham appears to be an attempt by a councillor to discredit the program. I would remind councillors to ask questions in a respectful manner. The program has discredited itself, and as such it's been plastered all over the media for many months, and especially in the last couple of weeks. And she has a link there, so I'll forward this to you. I put the words Australian...
Point of order.
I'm the chair. I can read it.
No, I can call a point of order.
And I'm going to continue to read. Thank you.
And then I can actually call.
I agree, Councillor McPhee. Councillor Watt, I know you're the chair, Madam Chair, but those questions are there for documentation only, not to be debated.
I'm not debating. I'm reading an email that came as correspondence, and I said it was tabled at the beginning of the meeting. I tabled it at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, I'll forward it to you, Matt, okay? Would someone from the committee like to note the questions?
Noted.
Thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Being no further business items, meeting's closed. Thank you.